Welcome to Killer Women with your host, best-selling author Danielle Girard. And now, Danielle's next killer woman.
Hello, and welcome to Killer Women Podcast, a proud member of the Authors on the Air global network with more than 4 million listeners. I am your host, suspense author Danielle Girard, and my guest today is Chevy Stevens. Chevy lives on Vancouver Island with her husband and daughter. When she isn't working on her next book, she's spending time with her family and their 2 dogs. Her books, including Still Missing, a New York Times bestseller and winner of the International Thriller Writers Award for Best First Novel, have been published in more than 30 countries. Welcome, Chevy.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
So fun to have you. This is Chevy's first visit to the podcast, and we were
It
talking
is.
today about The Hitchhikers. So, can you tell us a little bit about your new book?
In short, I used to joke that my premise line was it's a home invasion on wheels, which is basically the premise. It's a couple on a vacation and they run into the wrong couple, and it's set in the 70s. So there's a little bit more of a sure, we'll pick up these teenagers and drive them where they want to go. And then it turns very bad very quickly.
Yes, it does. And I was just telling Chevy before we started recording that this is the second book of hers I've read. I read just recently Dark Roads,
Dark Roads.
Dark Roads, which was another sort of, wonderful, lots of elements of like mothers, daughters, and in this one, some infertility too. Tell us a little about the couple because I think it's important to understand sort of where they are when they start their cross country, the main couple, their cross country trip.
Sure. So again, it wasn't initially set in the 70s, but then it became in the 70s. And it is a couple who are mid-marriage and they're trying to go on a vacation to, reconnect and heal from, they recently lost a baby. And so it's for them to reconnect over that. And I think too, what I wanted to lean into is, although it was a 70s feels like it wasn't that long ago, but then you're like, oh wow, it didn't have it was really a long time ago.
Yeah.
And to know that back then even infertility was still not really talked about and they didn't have a lot of the treatments they do now and various things and just how much more women suffered in silence, I think, back then. So this starts with the woman, sort of really trying to work through those feelings, and then something momentous occurs, which is worse. But in it, she also, the journey of self as well in there.
Yeah, and it's not spoiling anything to say that when the couple Tom analysis takes over the RV,
Yeah.
Tom is injured kind of quickly, and in some ways decapacitated, so that it is like incapacitated. I'm like, what is that? That's not
Yeah.
right.
Decapitated.
Like no, not decapitated, not decapitated, incapacitated. And it feels like Monday morning, and I swear it's like almost
That's all right.
so. But it's and so really it is Alice. Alice has to rise to
Mhm.
the occasion. And I actually kind of love, I don't know if that was part, I don't know if that was part of the way you imagine the novel, but it really does sort of force her forward in the story. Because of course, Tom
Yeah.
is a traditional family. He's a football coach, and he's a very, physically protective of her. And yet in this instance, he can't be. So she has to really do a lot of it on her own, and I sort of love that. And because it's set in the 70s, also there's very little. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have
No.
there's not the CCTVs everywhere. So
Hmm.
they're very much depending on somebody noticing that something is not quite right, and in order to get sort of outside help. And really, in the end, Alice has to sort of make it happen on her own. Which and there's no spoilers on Killer Women, but
No.
the
And
ending
I
is very
like I
satisfying.
like that was conscious. I did well for one, it's when you have a lot of people in a small confined area,
Yeah,
for writing it gets really hard to track everyone. And so you sort of had to make one a little inactive.
yeah,
And also that's you if somebody's going to take over, you're going to try to incapacitate the most dangerous one.
right.
So that made sense to me. And also I did want her to have to step into a role that wasn't what she'd been living and find out who she is and the as many women, we are forced often to rise above what we think we can do. I initially had her not even being able to, not used to even driving the RV, because driving RVs, they're big,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I had her a little too, I'm like, yeah, this is a little too wringing my hands. Oh no, what am I going to do? So I had to make her more able, but more able than she thinks she is.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
would
think
be
she
the way I would put it.
surprises herself in a lot of ways, which is,
Hmm.
and I think also there's that sense that Alice was, I think, and I just, of course, so many women, as you said, suffered in silence then, but we talk about it so much more now that we really are sort of like raised to be like the part of you that's, you get a certain age and you're going to become a mother. That's like your purpose, sort of.
Yes.
And I don't know if, men see it the same way, if they have the same experience, but I feel like for women, then if, if you choose not to have children, which, happens more and more, and obviously it's a very
Hmm.
valid choice, or you can't, and it's not your choice, it really does sort of, it shifts some ground underneath us because it's sort of what we, as little kids, we are sort of taught, like this is, this is who you're going to be, this is what you're going
Hmm.
to do. And for Alice, I think it was very much at the core of who she thought she would be. So,
Hmm. So she was definitely struggling with, who am I if I'm not that?
yeah,
And career, I think in the 70s they were in the cusp of a lot of, women really trying to be like, yo, we have thoughts and feelings and opinions and we can do stuff too.
yeah,
Like we were in that. And but even when I was researching this, I didn't realize it was like, I think 1974 was the first year that women were allowed to train as RCMP officers.
yeah.
And I'm like, what? And then when I researched, they weren't even allowed to wear pants until I think the 90s or something.
Right.
I was
Well,
like,
and
for
also, I
real?
mean, and also women weren't allowed to have their own credit cards without that was
Exactly.
also like the late 70s. Am I right? I mean,
Yes.
Roe versus Wade was 73. So you can see how some of those things sort of like
Yes.
started to happen for women in the
Yeah. And
70s.
it's not, it's kind of, I think we assume that it was so long ago, but it's not that long ago, and it's still prevalent.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing thing. It's of course more common for women not to have children now and
Yeah.
different, but it's still not without censure or judgment. And
Right. Women
I
can't do anything really without sort of a lot
no,
of judgment,
I
right?
didn't have my daughter until 39.
Yeah.
And which was, unusual. Even it's not, but it is. And I remember a doctor, I think when I was like 35 or 34, I remember he's like, "So you're not gonna have children then?" And I was like, "Dude, like,
Yeah.
did I have to make that decision now? Like, is there a box I was supposed to check? Like, it just hasn't happened." But it
Yeah.
was like the assumption that if you haven't, you're not going to. And
Right,
I was
right.
like,
And
"I'm
that's
"35."
part of it's biology, but part of it is also that the
Yes.
the system, and there's all this like, I mean, I know, so you had a geriatric pregnancy,
I know. Boy,
right?
is that a shock when you
I
keep getting
know.
referred to
When
that.
you're
It's like, ouch.
yeah, as soon as you're 35, anything above 35 is a geriatric pregnancy. And, and my dad was an OB/GYN, and actually
Oh,
my new book deals with surrogacy because a woman has idiopathic infertility and cannot get pregnant.
right.
And it is the sense of shame I'm sure you felt in that moment, even though you were like, wait a minute, this is
Yeah.
not, I haven't made that choice yet. And also like, yeah, don't, and then just the
Well,
words
and
that,
the fear that they inject in you as well.
yes,
Like your window is closed now. You're
yes,
35, too late. It's just
yeah,
like almost assumed. It does get harder. I recognize that
yes,
physically, but it
yes.
was very delivered as of, if it hasn't happened for you by now, it's just not in your life. That was that. So,
And on top of that, then of course we all know that our sort of psychology and our biology are very connected. So you give women
mhm,
that shot of fear, and then it does get harder to get pregnant because you
right.
suddenly believe you can't, and then your
Hmm.
body's like, well, I guess we believe we can't, and that you see that happen all the time to women too. So yeah,
Right.
it's really it's brutal. So I'm curious about the idea that you started this book set in a more contemporary time and went back. What was
Yeah.
that? Because obviously there's nowadays to get around lots of the sort of
Yes.
investigative stuff is hard, but
Yeah.
is that part of it
It was
or?
like many decisions we make in the book. There's often something you make on the fly, and then there's other ones where there's like a few different reasons we're lining up where you were like, I gotta solve this. So I very much love nostalgia. I
Yeah.
love vintage Airstreams. I like old Hollywood. I like that stuff. And I just love that feeling it gives you. And so I was gonna have my character into that. and she was
Yeah.
going to have a vintage Airstream, and it started that way, and then I was like, boy, this is feeling really familiar, because in Dark Roads,
Yeah.
there's cell phones. I have to explain why and when she can't use the phone.
Right.
Now, I do live on an island, and there is many patches where we still don't have
Yeah.
cell phone,
That's
but
sure.
a lot of people don't understand. They think that internet's available everywhere
Yeah.
still. Or, there's in a lot of mountain ranges you can't, but you have to explain that. And that was one character. I now have four. And
Yeah.
are they all like throwing their cell phones out the window? Did
Yeah.
they all lose battery? Like it gets that, and oh my gosh, CCTV
Everywhere.
every corner, thank God, because it does capture a lot of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah. It's good for
for
us.
authors.
Yeah. It's not good
For
for authors, but it's great for humans. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a few things lining up, and I just wasn't, it felt familiar, and I can't remember what the deciding moment was, but I remember writing my editor and was being like, do you mind if I set, and then of course I had to pick a time, I was like
Right.
1950s is a little too far back,
Right.
and 80s just didn't quite appeal to me. 80s was very, it's not as nostalgic to me. Maybe
Yeah.
it was a very pop cult. It would suit a
Yeah. It was
different.
kind of a happier time. I mean, compared,
Yeah, I think it would
Vancouver.
suit a different book,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but not this one. I just didn't see the road trip in the 80s. I don't know. So, and then I wanted to cement it with something, and in 1976 was the Montreal Olympics.
Right.
So I picked 76 because it was a likely time that they
Right.
would be doing it.
Plus,
And then the other
it's
change,
the bicentennial, which you mentioned, right?
exactly. I did not know that because I'm Canadian. But
Oh, okay.
when I made them American, they were not American initially either. And then I decided to have them coming up from Seattle. And I was like, well, that weekend, da, 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 da. And my friend was like, well, that was the bicentennial. And I'm like, the what now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So they had that too.
That's a
Even
big
better. They
deal.
did that, then they went there.
Yeah.
So it just really worked for the route. And also, being Canadian, if you have your characters, they're not going to be talking about Canada because they're not in a um, tour pamphlet. They're not. So, but I could have Americans looking at Canada through their eyes, and
Absolutely.
and so then I could lean into that and a little bit better than having
Yeah.
your own character go, boy, I sure do love these Canadian mountains.
Yeah.
Boy,
Right.
the Canadian fresh air is good,
Right.
So
Right. Right.
yeah. So, and also made them just, when you're not even in your own country, it's a whole different vibe too.
Right. Right. Yeah. And even if you had a cell phone, you'd be like, who do I call? Because here we call 911 and there you
Yeah.
pick up
SIM card, what?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
the whole different, you feel a little bit more, and terrain, you're in mountainous, just everything's different. So,
Yeah, and it is right across the border towns. I mean, there are. I mean, because I'm here in Montana, and it's a lot less populated. So all of that sort of particularly in the 70s, but even now, like right, it's not like being in Seattle or in one of
no.
those big cities. So it makes sense to me. They're very
And I
isolated.
bought a 1970s, I found it on eBay, map of BC in those
Oh,
years. And there was highways that I know of that aren't there. I was born in the 70s.
yeah,
And so my own family traveled from, we live on the island,
yeah.
to Ottawa in 76. And it
Oh,
wasn't until after, because my dad was in the Navy and we were moving there. And it
yeah,
wasn't until after I was like, we were on the roads at the same time.
yeah.
So
That's so
I,
cool.
yeah. So that was kind of cool. It was like inverting my own life in there.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm sure parts of these characters are from our own experiences, no matter what we do. Although, even if we're not committing murder in real life, which would be,
Yeah. I find the more books I write, the further I get away from my own self, though.
yeah, that makes sense. Talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, explain what you mean. So, like, you feel like the
Oh,
early,
well, you've mined your own life a fair bit, I
yeah,
think. Or also, um, I don't want to rehash the same. I don't know. I feel like you have your things you've dealt with. I might give quirks to a character. Sometimes it's more just that I give a dog. Bones, a dog in the book, and Otis, a dog in the book, are dogs in my own life.
oh yeah,
So
yeah,
there's things like that weed in, but actual personality traits, I think if I was, that whole if write what you know, I think if I was only writing what I know, I would run out of things
right,
quickly.
right,
I think it's more that it's not so much me or my life that ends up there, but more whatever I'm currently obsessed with probably ends up in there. If I'm really interested in toasters or something, somebody might really like toasters in the book.
That's
So
interesting.
I think
Well, I
that
mean,
kind
that brings up all sorts of questions about like, what things you're currently obsessed with in Hitchhikers, but also like if I look at back at Dark Roads and like
yeah.
the bumper sticker, the VW, the her car, the all that stuff, the little elements that I can see coming from someone's real life. That's cool.
Yeah, and actually in Dark Roads, I mean, I guess there is a lot of me in these books actually, now that I look at it. Dark Roads, I grew up with, the family that had dirt bikes and all of that. So it was in there. I
Yeah.
guess also it's what we've maybe absorbed
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah, it's not necessarily what I do not like dirt bike riding, but so you can give it to a character. It's like you get to be
Yeah.
1,000 different people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when you sit down with a new book, sort of what is what's the process? Is there, an initial idea, and can you sort of tell our listeners about where the idea of Hitchhikers was born? Was it the
Mhm.
idea of sort of being trapped in an RV on the road? Was it something, different that led to that? Do you remember? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to know.
Each one seems to come about a slightly different way.
Sure.
Um, but I've noticed it's usually something that interests me, and the last few have come in dreams. But it's not that they don't come fully written. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yes, it
They
would.
don't come with like, here's your protagonist, here's your antagonist. They're like a haze. And then usually I then play with it and mold it. And then I talk to my agent or my editor. So when I finish a book, as I'm writing a book, I'm always jotting down things that interest me or intrigue me or that's weird or. And so then I'll look at what I have and I'll send her, these are some loose things I've been playing with. And she'll be like, that one sounds interesting. And I already knew because my RV one was way up at the top.
Yeah.
And I knew she was like, well, I like that second one. I'm like, or
Do you
what
like
could be
the
really good? The RV.
Yeah, the
So
first
that one
one.
came in a dream. It was just the image of you're on a trip and you're being overtaken and seeing someone with your husband. And I think in that dream it was like somebody walking your husband away and like that terrible feeling. And originally I had her have a child, but I didn't want to put a child in a
Yeah.
terrifying situation. I actually have a problem with writing about kids in scary stuff. So it evolved. It evolved from there. But initially it was a dream. And the one that I'm currently working on
Yeah.
was also, I think, that transition right before you're going to fall asleep and you're like really hazy.
The
I
best.
often just like to just open it up and just my mind, I feel like it's just going over our little channels and seeing little trails and just following little things. And that was how I get the kernel.
That's exciting. And then and are you somebody who sort of, has the idea and sits down and sort of, works through all the details before you write? Are you discovered as you go?
Both.
Yeah.
Um, I cannot just be a pantser because my first one was, and that took a heck of a long time because I didn't even know how to write a book. So
Right, of
that
course.
was a giant learning curve. Um, Now I have gone the other way where you think you have the whole thing and you realize as soon as you start writing it that it sucks. So I've had to kind of I've realized I have to test the voice first
Okay.
because I can have this most amazing. I spent once, I think I'd watched like a James Patterson How to Write thing, and his was like so down to his science.
I know.
I was like, I can do this, and I spent so long doing it. And then I started writing, and I'm like, oh shit, this is boring. It's
Well, there's
boring.
something about like I am this way too, and I know people do it really successfully where they outline the whole story. But for me, if I know the whole story, then what's the point of writing the book? Like
Mhm. I
uh,
kind of go, I kind of go, I need to make sure my premise is hot. And that's really, really, really hitting me so much more after eight. Like before I might have had a conversation with my editor and we would had come up with a loose thing and she'd be like, yeah, just go for it, just do it. And then I'd be thinking about it for the next day or two and I'm like, but wait, that won't actually work.
mhm,
And so I think and hope that I'm getting better at knowing what has to be there or it will just fizzle.
mhm,
And so of course, in my genre is suspense. If there's not going to be anything scary or somebody scary, then it's just not going to work.
right, right.
So I've done some like with The Hitchhikers, I wasn't plotted all the way out on that one. I kind of just did in chunks forward. I was worried I had to get them, like they're going to be in a vehicle. So I had to like make it like, how do you stretch that for a book? So
Right?
yeah, so there were some things, challenges with there. The one I'm currently
Yeah.
working on, I have worked out far more. I wouldn't say it's not scene by scene, it's not chapter by chapter. It's more just seeing all my lines and the
Hmm.
layers. And so when I write, I'm going to know more in my intention, but it's not worked out paragraph by paragraph by any. But that being said, I also made sure to send my editor my first two chapters. I think it was first, and I wrote it in a couple different ways.
Okay.
Like, if it's told from this person, it's going to be like this. If it's, and I tried it for myself too,
Yeah.
because who's going to narrate it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, if it's told from this person, it will come out like this. If it's first person or if it's third person, it's going to be like this. So
Right.
I kind of did it actually. And then she's like, I like this one and this one. And I myself had already kind of noticed that if I told it from that person, it was like, eh.
Okay.
So,
So
so
you
I kind of have to try it on.
and do you feel like have you had instances where you were like, I like it from this side and she likes it from this side and you know,
Um, usually we're online. I
good.
do find that usually my own instincts, and which I really hate though, when you send in a book and you just could not get something right, and you didn't get it right, but you hoped maybe you got it right, and then they wrote back and you didn't get that right. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I knew I didn't get it right,
Yeah.
but sometimes they have the answer, so that's helpful. But in this one, she had wanted me to write one character in first, and I had preferred it in second, or
Mhm.
not second, third.
Yeah.
All my books previously have been first, but I
Interesting.
wrote The Hitchhikers in third, and it really freed me up in a way that I hadn't had before. And I'm like, I like this.
Interesting.
So this was a time when I rewrote it and sent it back to her. I gave her first and third. So I
Uh-huh.
gave her what I wanted to write it in as well. And she said, usually I can tell which one I like better, but they're whatever you feel good with, because these are both working for me. And I'm like, third it is.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's interesting. So, I mean, do you have a sense for why it felt so different to write, third versus like why it
Mhm.
felt freer?
It's a good question. I was a diehard first person.
Hmm.
Like I didn't even like I was always first person. And then it happened during Dark Roads because they were both in first person.
Hmm.
And because they were both younger characters, typically it had like maybe a mother or one older character and someone younger, so they didn't really sound the same kind of vibe.
Right.
Yeah, and it was my editor who said, I think you should write Beth in third and,
Uh-huh.
Haley in first. And so I did that. And then when I was starting the Hitchhikers, I again tried it in first. I tried it in third. I tried it in fifth. And it just felt like putting on the right shoes.
Yeah.
Like it just went slip fit. I think it allows you to step back a bit
Yeah.
and go more into story. It's close third.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
people like Stephen King who can be very like they use the person's last name and it's very Thomas Bell got up that morning.
Yes, right. It's much more sort of omniscient feeling third. Yeah.
Yes, which is cool. I like
Yeah.
that
I
too.
mean,
But I don't know
it's
if you
hard to
feel the
argue.
emotions as intensely in that.
Right.
But
And I actually like it's interesting that you bring up the Beth and Haley and Dark Roads because it does give us a sense that we're closer to Haley than we are to
yes.
Beth, which I felt like worked in that particularly in that story, right, with the way it ends up. So it makes sense to me that and that seemed like a very effective tool. You didn't you were attached to both of them. You felt like you knew them both, but then in your mind you're like, well, my allegiance in my mind
Yes.
was a little bit closer to Haley than it was to Beth. So
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I mean, it's interesting when you write two narrators, how many people will connect with one and not the other.
yeah, yeah.
But generally, the first person character, I think, is the one that they feel is the dominant character. And
Yeah.
so the one I'm working on right now, the other reason I didn't want to do it in first is because I didn't want that I didn't the person who was opening it, I didn't want to be the main thing. I wanted it equal. So I think it makes it a little bit more equal if you can do it that way.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I think it's just really a lot of it's so organic too. I mean, you know this, right? Like it's the head thought, but then the other one is like, I don't know, it just felt better.
Right. Right.
Like
Which I think is a lot. I mean, a lot of this process is sort of listening to your gut in this. And I guess
Yes.
that brings me to sort of a question. We have a lot of listeners who are aspiring authors or written a book and shelved it and are trying again and that kind of thing. And I think it's always nice to hear, like, what advice, Chevy, would you give to your sort of your brand new writer self before you published a book that something you've learned along the way that you wish you'd sort of known or accepted more easily back then?
Well, I'm glad I didn't know how bad I was when I first started.
That's
I'm
fair.
glad that I was
We all
very
we
on a
all
wing
got
and a
about we all feel that way for sure.
yeah, right? Like I'm like I can't tell you how I thought to my agent, why did you like seriously? Like did you actually read it? Because like like it was a mess. But they see things
Yeah,
that
they
you
have
don't.
to. I mean, they have to be able to see the
Yeah,
thing
voice,
way about
style,
every book I've
something.
ever turned
Yeah.
in. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. So if I think the ongoing thing that I don't know if I see anybody go to is being open to learning that you don't know shit.
mhm.
Like being open to getting now learning to evaluate feedback is a whole other ballgame. Because
Yeah,
if you don't have a strong sense of self,
right,
you could be like a ping pong ball,
right.
like, and it's gonna suck. But I see a lot of people who get locked into a vision and they're not willing to learn or to grow or to, I've tossed books.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you just have to.
It's
And
difficult, but
and it
true.
sucks.
Hmm.
Like you're 2 years into trying to make this thing do what it was supposed to do. And I've had my editor go, well, maybe we can come back at it this way. And I've been like, mm-mm, it's done.
Yeah,
Like that one, done.
yeah,
And so I think you have to be willing to let go.
yeah.
You have to, it really learning your own voice is a challenge. And I don't know if I could have an advice of how to get to that because
Right.
there's people who also really, really, really think they're amazing. And, like you see some singers on like they're convinced and you go, so I don't know. There's a little bit, I guess, get feedback from multiple people, right? But
Right. And who
um,
you get feedback, I think, from matters too. I mean, it's nice to have your mother say how much she loves your book, which
yeah,
we all need that person too. But also, right, the person who can be honest. But then I think you can get honest feedback that's not good too. So it is a little bit tricky, right?
it's very finding a critique partner who doesn't suck the wind right out of your sails is really hard.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how from I have a critique partner, Carla Buckley, she's an author. And it's interesting how she can say something and we just get it to like, okay, but why did it feel that way? Was it this or was it this? And like
Yeah.
it doesn't offend me. For
Right.
some reason, when she gives me feedback, I just go, oh, okay, yeah. But if somebody else can give you the feedback and you're just like, oh, or it's so vague that
Right.
you can't get a grip on what they're saying. So finding somebody who give feedback in a way that you can process is challenging for sure.
And
So
once you
it's
find that
finding your
person,
people.
yeah, finding your people is sort of
Yeah.
a golden experience. I agree with you.
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit? I love the idea of that you're working in the middle of something new. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit? I don't want to ever spoil
Yeah.
it.
No, it's
Really.
okay. This one is different for me because I was running out of like I was thinking, well, I've done abductions, I've done 1 year, 8 books in, you've had bad dads, you've done a lot of bad stuff. And I
Yeah,
don't do children's things.
yeah,
And um also my books tend to be different in that they're not always mysteries. Like I think The Hitchhikers was a different kind of thriller. I think people still think in terms of there's the giant plot twists or these. It was very much more the like Speed, the movie Speed,
yes, yeah. It's
or
more,
The
yeah,
Fugitive.
right. It's
Right,
more of a thriller than it is like a mystery. We know kind of who the
exactly.
baddies are up front.
Yeah, it's pretty like they're in this scenario and
Yeah,
how are they gonna get out of it?
yeah.
There was no somebody hired a hitman on the corner and that's how reason behind the whole thing.
Right,
It's
right, right.
right. Like it was more organic that way. But I was running out of people that are bad. And so I did ask my editor, I said, I'm thinking like what really truly scares me. And the thing that really scares me is ghosts.
Yeah,
So I was like, can I dip into that? And she
yeah,
was like, yeah, sure, but within parameters. Because I did pitch. I'm like, okay, so I see death. And she's like, yeah, let's.
yeah,
I'm like, fine, one dead person.
yeah.
So, there's still lying. So that's fun because now I have a narrator with a different experience. And then figuring out who's going to tell the rules of this ghost. Um,
Right, because you're
that's a
creating
new
it.
challenge.
Yeah, you're creating it. You have to set up rules since it's not. it's we're not used to living in that world. That is not the
Exactly.
rules of that
And what
aren't.
can ghosts do? And well, there's ghosts in, modern fantasy books can do a whole lot more in what we think ghosts can do. And so it's
Right,
like, where was that line? And I think for me as a writer, and I'm sure you find this too, it's like I'm writing a story that I hope entertains people,
right,
of course,
right,
but I'm also writing something that I have to find really interesting and challenging.
right.
For me, it's like I always want to step up my game, like always. Not everyone else might think I've stepped up my game, but for me, I'm like, I know that I did something that I hadn't done before. I
Right.
challenged my craft. So I think that for me is like, what can I learn? How are other gothic thrillers doing it? And
Yeah.
so I like
And
that.
gothic thrillers are so, so fun and hot right now. I feel like that,
Yeah.
I love that you're sort of you're getting into a little bit of paranormal.
Yeah.
Um,
And this one did come in a bit of a dream and it's evolved, but in the dream, it was a woman being haunted by her husband's mistress who was dead.
oh
And I
wow.
went, what is that?
Yeah.
And I woke up and I was like, And at first, initially, it was more of a, how things change. It was more of a romance, like, oh, she has to, like, maybe she's going to find some new love for her husband. Da, 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 da. And then it was the woman dying. But I didn't want to write an older woman who had children die.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just can't do it. It feels like, I don't know why, but I'm like, I just cannot. I don't want to write a tragic, like at the end, it was all okay. I don't know. So
Right,
it has
right.
evolved.
Fun.
But
That's
yeah,
super fun. I love that. Well, tell our listeners where to find you. I'm assuming you're gonna do some events for the hitchhikers.
I'm not doing
You're
many events.
not.
Well, I mean, Canada, so I'm not traveling a lot right now.
Yes, right.
And, I did in the past, and then with Dark Roads came out right around COVID time.
Yeah.
And so I'll be going and doing local signings, but I do not like social events. And I've come to realize at the
Sort of
ripe
like
old age of 52
true.
that I don't really have to.
Yeah.
And I'm doing podcasts, things like
Yeah.
that.
There you
And
are.
I asked my Canadian publishing, do I have to do a big event, like a big signing? And they're like, you really don't have to. And the weird thing about being older and we all have it's like women, we have preconceived notions of what we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's very much writers. You are supposed to do one book a year. You are supposed to do events. You're supposed to do these things. So stepping away and saying that's not right for me is hard because we
Yeah,
always
it
think we're
is.
totally screwing ourselves by doing that.
Yeah.
But
Good for you.
I'm trying. Hmm?
Finding your voice and setting your boundaries. I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of this world. It's really
Because
hard to do.
I've done events and they're fine. I mean, I know that they're important to your readers. And so I feel bad not doing one because I know they are. But I also know that I have at least 2 weeks of anxiety before it.
Yeah, fair. Fair.
And it messes your whole life up.
Yeah.
Not the event, but the anxiety.
Yeah.
When you're living in that space, everything just kind of goes sideways. And it's kind of like cost benefit is
Yeah.
like,
And your readers, is that, I mean, I'm assuming, if your readers, do they reach out to you sometimes through social media or your website and they can find signed copies of your
yeah, so I'm going to be
well,
signing books at my local stores up and down the island. I'm going to Vancouver, which is where the Canadian distributors are for St.
yeah,
Martin's Press, and I'll sign their stock and I will make sure. And then I always post their signed stock here. And
sure.
again, being up here, not in the US, it's harder to get things to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But there's a couple stores that are willing, if somebody sends the postage and pays, they will ship it to them. And
Yes.
I'll go in and they'll say, Billie Jean wants
Yeah.
this one to her
Right.
mother. And I will do that. And I will absolutely do that. And I do that for, local people and stuff. No problem, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think readers are just looking for ways to connect to us. So actually the podcasts and
Yes.
this gives
Yeah.
you an opportunity to talk to your readers on a much
Yeah.
broader,
And I've done audio things. I've had people say, could you send a card for someone's birthday? And I'll say, would you like me to record a message?
yeah.
And I will, it's like a cameo, but no visual.
Yeah.
Um, but I've done that for people. I've sent
Yeah.
just audio recordings and I
I mean,
think that,
I think offering yourself in all the ways that feel comfortable
yeah.
without, moving into the ways that do not feel comfortable is really smart. And like you said, we're in our 50s. There's no,
Mhm.
the rules just they can't be the same anymore. We can't have to do.
No, and it's not like I always feel like it's not because there's not like some sense of greatness in me that's like, oh, I don't want to go. It's nah, man, I don't want to be stressed for a week and have anxiety and be short with my daughter. And I just for it's that. And it's like,
Sure.
there's things we have to push ourselves through, and then there's some things that maybe we just don't. And
Right.
it was a weird feeling. It's like, can I just do this? Can I really
Can I get
not
away with this? Yeah, we're
can I
not.
really do
We're
this?
we need more of that. I think women we need more of the
Well, I
like.
see like Taylor Swift and people like that. My God, if they don't sign one autograph, people are furious at
I
them.
know, I
Or
know.
Chapel Roan, and I get that, and it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing because you want to be able to, like you said, for your fans. So I
Yeah,
think, like you said, you can do what you can do for them. I do try to make it so that they can get signed books and things like that. And
yeah.
so,
And mostly what they should want from us, I hope, is the next really good book, which we
right?
would do a better job of if we if you don't make us go out into public.
Yeah. If I'm not like an anxious mess a week or two beforehand.
Yeah, it'll be my
That was 2 weeks worth of writing you guys missed.
exactly, exactly. It'll be more productive and I'll have the next book.
Yeah.
Well, it's super fun. Well, so tell if you have a website or I know you're on Instagram, tell listeners where to find you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm probably more on Facebook. Maybe that's a generational thing. I do love TikTok, but I haven't found my niche in TikTok yet. I haven't found
So yeah,
I mean, some people are brilliant at it. Geneva Rose, brilliant
I
at
know.
it.
I love her. She's also 20. I mean, she's in her 30s, right? She's
Right.
a wee young one, but yes, she is
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm not, I think I'm more of a private person. Like I'm shy. I don't, well, I mean, like I'm always call myself a friendly introvert
Yeah, I'm
because
an
one-on-one
extrovert.
I can
Introvert.
talk.
Yeah.
But for me to expend energy even in one video, I'm done. That was my thing of the day.
Yeah,
So,
it's so true. And you
ugh,
want me to also write a book at the same time? That's impossible. Yeah.
right? I'm
I
waiting for
feel
my
it.
daughter to get old enough. She's almost 13.
She's
I'm
going to be
like,
able to help.
girl,
Yeah, she's going to
you are going to be my social media person.
She
I
is.
am raising you for this. This is why
You
you're
were
allowed to
born for
watch
this purpose.
TikTok.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
research for you.
Go watch Book Talk. Everything Book Talk, girl. You're gonna learn
Oh,
all.
it's amazing. I love TikTok. Yeah, I love TikTok, but to do things on it is challenging for sure.
I
So
agree.
TikTok, Instagram, I don't do a lot of Twitter because boy, is that a weird new world.
Yes.
And Facebook, but
Yeah. And are
I'm
you
not as
Chevy
active on
Stevens
those.
on most of those? Is that your
Yeah,
hand?
I'm always Chevy Stevens. It's not my real name. It's a pen name, but it's not a secret. It's simply because my last name's crazy. So
Okay. That works. But is Chevy your real name?
no,
Oh,
my name's Renee.
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
This is true of somebody else I know in the writing world. Is it funny to have people call you Chevy? So,
I'm pretty used to it now. I think it was actually worse for my mother because my dad was Chevy. So
um,
she found it really hard when
yeah.
people would refer or just see the name, or that was harder on her. But it was my dad's nickname because our last name is Unishevsky, and
Oh
he was in
yeah.
the Navy, so he was just always called Chevy. And Steven is my brother, and I needed an online fake
Yeah.
name, and
Yeah.
I made up this one. And then my agent, I said, I have this other name. I use something. He's like, yeah, we'll go with that. And
Yeah.
I'm good with that because spelling out Renee Unishevsky my entire life has not been easy. So.
And it's such a
It's not a
catchy name.
secret.
I mean, I mean, so many people do it and for good reason, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great name. I love it. And I
Thank
love that
you.
it's kind of got a little bit of it's got a little tomboy edge to it, which I really like.
A little
So,
generic there. And it's just, I don't know, it just rolled, it flowed. There was no, oh, I'm going to be secretive. There wasn't any of that. It was
yeah,
just, this looks and sounds better. And, it's for my dad, for my brother. There's all that,
yeah, the
it's in
family
there.
connection too, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is obviously important to you. It's in both the books I read really heavily, the idea of family and
Yeah.
so I love that. Well, okay, so we will be giving away a copy of The
Oh, yeah.
Hitchhikers on our Facebook page, and our Instagram, Killer Women Podcast, or over on Facebook at Danielle's Killer Women. So everybody look for that. Go check out if you're listening to us, go check out The Hitchhikers and the cover, which I love, which is clearly the young people, because that's sort of the first view we get of them is when they're walking and
It
one
has
of
a
them.
different cover in Canada,
Oh,
but
does it?
yeah, it does.
I'll
It's a
bet.
little bit more Canadian. But yeah, I like this too. It's totally the Hitchhikers in Love kind of vibe.
Yeah, desperation is a dark road. I love that. That's the tagline on the cover. For those of you who are like, what, where did that come from? So go check out this cool cover and go visit Chevy. And thank you so much for joining us today, Chevy, with the
Thank you for having
Hitchhikers.
me. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been
Everyone, we will
fun.
see you next time. Bye.